This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fan Report. I'm Nick, and with me is Andrew.
Hey, I really tried to make Nick break during the intro.
He almost did. I ain't gonna lie, he almost did. But we are brought to you by Detroit Sports Podcast. Shoot them a follow on Twitter. Shoot us a follow on Twitter at Real Fan Report. We thank you guys for listening, as always. This offseason has just been as slow as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is... I know we have Hard Knocks coming to town, but frankly, is anybody going to watch this?
Me? You kidding me? I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, but you're weird.
Everyone who's a Lions fan is going to watch it.
I can very confidently say not everyone that is a Lions fan will watch it.
Me and you are going to watch it.
I might.
You were very ecstatic about watching it when they announced it.
Yeah,
or made you change your mind?
I don't. It's not that I changed my mind. It's just like I've never cared about Hard Knocks. Like I never have. And just because it's here, is that really going to change? Probably not. Like I can think of better
I've never
things.
really cared about Hard Knocks, but yeah, it does change because it's here.
I can think of better things to do with my time than watch the Lions training camp.
It's like an hour of your week.
I can think of better things to do with that hour. I could take a nap. I enjoy naps.
Hey, you might.
Sometimes I enjoy.
Hard Knocks.
I might. Sometimes I enjoy naps more than I enjoy watching the Lions. And if the last 4 or 5 years is there any indication, I definitely enjoy naps more than I enjoy watching the Lions. But I mean, other than like that. With that starting to get kicked up, and obviously the letdown that was the NHL draft lottery and the NBA draft lottery, and just the Tigers being a catastrophic letdown entirely of biblical proportions, it's just been a slow offseason for Pistons fans, Lions fans, and if you're a Tigers fan, it's been a slow regular season. For Wings fans, also been kind of slow. I mean, yes, we fired Blashill. We are connected to Barry Trotz, I have heard, so that's some good news there. But there's just been nothing to note. But that doesn't put us, at any kind of stopping point. We continue on and truck on with some topics. We're going to continue our prospect profile this week, leading up into the NBA draft, which is next month? No, this month.
It's later this month.
Later this month, yes. I forgot it's June now.
Yep, it's June now.
And there's a couple other things to talk about with the Lions, and we're actually going to... We teased it last week, but we're going to give you reasons why a little bit optimistic about the Lions this season. A little bit optimistic. Mm-hmm. But Andrew, how are you? How was your weekend? How was your Memorial Day weekend?
Exhausting. I did a day trip to Chicago.
A day trip to Chicago. That is one thing I can honestly say I've never done.
This is my third time doing it.
So what you're saying is it's actually worth doing? Because like I think of anything over 3.5 hour drive as being not worth a day trip. Because you're spending
it's
half
worth
your day
doing
driving.
Depending how early you're going and how late you're willing to get back.
Okay, but if you're spending all day in Chicago, aren't you kind of too tired to drive the 4 hours home?
I mean, I drove there and back. Like I was the one driving.
You're a lunatic.
It wasn't my idea. My idea was to stay the night, but
that's what I would have.
We left at 6. We got there at 3:30 Chicago or 9:30 Chicago time.
That's about right. Yep.
And then we stayed there. I thought we were going to stay there till about 7, 8 o'clock Chicago time. Mm-hmm. We ended up actually leaving by like 4:30.
Oh, why?
They got tired.
Okay.
I mean, I put them to work with the walking. I mean, I was like, we have a lot to hit, and we have very little.
What'd you guys
time to do it? We I reserved parking by the Lakeside Millennium Garage, like Millennium Park, like by the lake.
Yeah.
So walked around there, walked around the garden, showing the bean, and all that. Then walked up Michigan Ave, did a little bit of the Riverwalk right there, and then kept walking up Michigan Ave.
I know exactly where that's at. I stayed in a hotel right there.
And then kept walking up Michigan Ave like through the Mag Mile, and then hit that that little like lakeside walk leading up to the pier from the north side of Chicago.
Yep, that's over by where Shed Aquarium is, isn't it?
No, other side. Other side of the pier. Other side. There might be a lake walking that way too. But other side, like the north. I'm talking about the north side.
Yep.
Yeah. So coming from the north down to the pier, walked around the pier. We did do Gino's East, Chicago Pizza. My uncle never had Chicago pizza.
Overrated.
I agree. Even though this time was probably my favorite Chicago pizza I've had.
Really? See, I've heard from...
This is my first time at this specific Gino's East location. And it was my favorite.
From everybody I've talked to that either lives in Chicago or frequents Chicago, the worst Chicago pizza is at places like Gino's and Giordano's. That is the worst Chicago pizza. If you want to get better, Chicago pizza, you got to go to different places because it's terrible at the big night.
We just didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of searching, and Gino's East had 0 wait. So
that's fair. I think last time we were there was 0 wait, which probably should have been an indication, but that's beside the point.
No, it was actually the best because it wasn't like as thick as I'm used to a Chicago pizza being.
So you got gypped.
It felt a little more like an actual pizza,
Yeah.
And then we did some margs at Margaritaville on the pier.
You didn't need to go to Chicago to do that.
Well, there's no Margaritaville. Is there a Margaritaville, Michigan, anywhere?
I'm pretty sure there is now.
If there is, I don't know where it is.
I will look it up.
I've always thought the two closest margs are Niagara Falls and Chicago. I thought those were the two closest Margaritavilles.
There's one in Sandusky, Ohio. There's one in Cleveland, Ohio.
Why is there one in Cleveland and Sandusky, Ohio?
Why do I know? Or how do I know? There is actually one in Michigan. It is in Metro Airport. That's where it was.
There's a Margaritaville in the Metro Airport?
Yes, in the North Terminal. I've been there. We went there when we were waiting for our plane to board several months ago.
This doesn't make sense.
My girlfriend and I.
It doesn't make any... It makes literally zero sense.
I can see it. Like, you're getting ready to go on a vacation to somewhere. Let's go to Margaritaville.
Like a bar makes sense. Yeah.
It's a bar and restaurant.
I was saying, I feel like Margaritavilles normally aim for a certain aesthetic, but the 3 locations you just listed do not hit that aesthetic at all.
I don't think Chicago hits that aesthetic at all.
On the pier, it kind of does.
There's piers everywhere. Sandusky's on a pier.
On the pier in the summer specifically, I guess it does.
Okay, and Sandusky's on a pier.
Sandusky is Chicago Navy Pier is like a very hot tourist spot, and Sandusky is Sandusky.
You got Cedar Point and Kalahari. You take that Sandusky slander out your mouth.
Are you defending Ohio, Nicholas?
No, I'm joking. Oh man! But what else did you guys do? You haven't actually named any spots you went to besides Gino's and Margaritaville.
That's because we didn't really go to any spots.
You didn't go to any museums, nothing? You just walked around the city?
We didn't have time for that. It's a day trip. We didn't have time to do all that.
I'll be honest with you.
I just gave him a tour. I just had to give him the tour of the city. That was my job.
That doesn't even sound fun. I go somewhere that I've never been, and I don't even get to do anything. I just get to look at things. Yeah, pass.
That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to do a day trip to Chicago. So I was like, all right, I can accommodate.
And this is this building, and this is that building.
Yep, that's basically
buildings. What it was.
What? He got about like 2 hours of footage out of it. Okay. The man had like a full on like vlogger setup. Interesting. But then we did Barrio on Saturday. That was so good.
I've still never been there. I've heard it's so good.
Well, we gotta do it soon then.
I'm in.
The fact that you've never been there.
Never. It
was fun. We had like a job. We had like 12 people, and like Barrio was like super hard to like get like 2 people into, let alone 12. But we eventually got in. We had to get 3 separate tables, basically 3 separate tables before. But like they were all like right next to each other. It's like we all ordered up drinks, and then I get to go wash my hands, and I come back, sit down, I'm like, all right, we got 12 tequila shots coming. Everyone started freaking out, and I go, I'm kidding, guys. And then one aunt like got all upset that I was kidding. She goes, "Oh, I was really."
You know what? She's the one you hang out with.
She's awesome. Her and I were the only two. Like we finished our margaritas in about 20% of the time. Took everyone else to. Nice. And we flagged down the waiter and told him that we had a we had a leak in the glass. We need new ones.
Nice. Did it work?
He offered to bring us new ones for a charge.
Did you say yes? Because I would have.
No, I went with a Corona because I had to drive.
Oh, fair. All right.
I was like, 2 marks might be overdoing it.
Well, sounds like you had a good weekend. I went to my family's lake house with our buddy Alex. That was a good time. We spent a lot of time on the lake. But anyways, let's go ahead and kick things off here.
Oh, how long mine was and yours was. Spent time on the lake. All right, let's keep going.
I mean, yeah. What is there to say there? I rode a boat, rode jet skis, and laid out and relaxed. I mean,
try to murder Alex. Keep going.
I did not. I throw him off one jet ski. I didn't even throw him off. I just, was having fun hot dogging it, and he decided not to hold on very tight. That's his fault. Oh, man. But let's go ahead and kick things off here.
What do you want to start with?
I was just about to ask you that question.
I took your line.
What do we start with this week?
Let's start with the Lions.
You want to start with the Lions? All right, we can do that. So this was kind of your
since we
little
teased
tease.
it last week.
Yeah, this is kind of your little tease. So let's hear what you got in mind here.
Well, I mean, this is you brought me a topic that kind of fit right into my tease. It's really funny because tease means butt in Arabic, and when I said you brought me a topic that fit right in my tease, okay, never mind.
Nice.
Anyway, so Sports Illustrated. Well, basically, I teased last week that for the first time in what feels like forever, I'm actually kind of optimistic about the Lions season. But with that being said, Sports Illustrated, Conor Orr Sports Illustrated, put out some bold predictions for the NFL season, and a couple of them involve the Lions.
They do?
They do.
I can go ahead and kind of start it off here with one of them. And this is the one that I don't know that I necessarily believe. And it has not much to do with his talent level or anything like that. It's more to do with what he's trying to come back from. But on their list, Sports Illustrated says, and this is from Sports Illustrated writer Cameron Orr, is that his name? Conor Orr.
Conor Orr.
He says, Jeff Okudah will revive his career in a significant way. He says the former number 3 pick has played just 10 NFL games in 2 seasons, which seems to give us the license to label him a bust. False. With a full season under his belt in 2023, the Lions' patience and investment finally will pay off. Now, Leonard, do you buy this? Do you think Jeff Okudah is going to revive his career this year?
I really want to buy it. I don't understand what they're basing this on. Yeah, you can say he was put in a bad position by Matt Patricia, combined with injuries. He hasn't really gotten the chance to shine under this regime, and this regime has kind of already shown that they're good at getting players to buy in. Like, you can go with that narrative, but that's all that is a narrative. I have zero concrete reason from what I've seen from Jeff Okudah that he will all of a sudden be worthy of the number 3 pick this year. That being said, I'm not rooting again. I'm 100% rooting for that to happen. I guess that's the point of a bold prediction, is it's not always based in reality. But for me to actually buy the bold prediction, I need some kind of basis to go off of, and I got nothing to go off of here. So I don't think I can buy this one. I
definitely can agree and see where they say that, yes, he was put in a position to essentially fail under Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn and that regime entirely. Like those guys were not very good football guys, not good at putting players in their best spot to succeed. And Jeff Okudah was definitely a detriment of that. And then you all obviously had the injury last year. But the injury is kind of part of the reason why I don't buy this, because how many players come back from an Achilles tear and are effective? Especially guys who already had an issue with being a little bit too slow for their position. Now you're asking them to come back and be even slower after an Achilles tear. That's very concerning and something that kind of makes me question the idea behind it also. But I will say this. I do think he'll be put in a position to succeed this year. You look at, and I'm taking Dan Campbell out of this equation entirely. You look at what the Lions have in terms of their defensive coaching makeup. They have a guy like Aaron Glenn, who is massively sought after by a lot of teams to either be a head coach or a DC. He's a former defensive back in the NFL and a successful one. You look at Aubrey Pleasant, the cornerbacks coach, another former cornerback in this league and a successful one. And Aubrey Pleasant's a guy who probably got more out of his corners last year than anybody expected. So I think if there's a regime, a coaching regime that can get the most out of a player who really hasn't shown anything to this point in his career, it's those two. It's that coaching, that defensive coaching regime. And then you've got Dan Campbell, that's a definite motivator and leader of men that can kind of put the cherry on top, so to speak. So Okudah will be put in a position to succeed and have every opportunity. I'm just not sure that I buy him coming back from an Achilles tear and being better than what he already was, considering nobody comes back better after an Achilles tear. Nobody. And he already had massive issues with speed, and nobody comes back faster after an Achilles tear. Like, it just... Plus, I have to have some type of solid baseline to go off of talent level and success, and he's gotten none of that. He's shown none of that at the NFL level, that he's got a baseline to bypass. Like, he's just got nothing, which I guess if he plays more than 10 games, sure, that's already a better season. But was he any good? Like, that's where the part I say I got to pump the brakes on. Is he actually going to be a productive corner in this league at this point? And that's where I say I don't think I can buy this for that reason. I don't.
But again, we hope it happens.
Obviously, I do. Like, and if it does happen, it probably is one of the reasons why the next thing happens, the next bold prediction. But I obviously do hope it happens. I'd love to see Okudah succeed, and I'd love to see the Lions have a legitimate, blockade of corners out there, a legitimate roster of corners out there that they can rotate in and out and be shut down guys and allow the pass rush and the linebackers to, wreak havoc in the backfield. Like, I'd like to see him succeed. It's just I don't necessarily think he will. I don't have as strong of a belief there.
Yeah. But that leads us into the second bold prediction in this article, and which kind of leads us into the tease from last week, which is the Lions will nail their over. Now, he says that if you're a regular reader and podcast listener, you may be starting to sense the groundswell of excitement for the Lions. Dan Campbell magic is upon us. Right now on DraftKings, you can bet the over on 6.5 wins this year in Detroit. I feel pretty darn good about that. If we take a quick gander over the Lions' schedule, and you know how much I kind of dislike trying to predict wins on a schedule before even the preseason happens, because you have no idea how the season's going to shake out for teams.
Right.
But there's a reason I'm optimistic about this team going into the season, and it's because I look at their schedule and it feels pretty light, especially compared to last season.
Sure does.
So the question becomes, can I pick out 7 games that I feel fairly confident the Lions can come out with a win? The answer is yes. I think Seattle is going to be absolute dog shit this year.
Their quarterback is Drew Lock.
Exactly.
Like, going through, let's go through. We can even go through game by game here, and I don't want to do a full schedule breakdown. We'll do that a little bit closer to the season.
So I'm saying I want to see if you can you pick 7 wins easy out of the schedule. I think you have New York. I think that should be a fairly easy win. Right?
I think you'll split with Minnesota, split with Chicago. I think Seattle's one that you can take.
I'm just trying to pick the lowest hanging fruit. Jacksonville, that's number 3. New York 4. Carolina 5. That's 5 right there.
The Giants game is one that the Lions tend, like, that's one I can see them blowing. I
could see them blowing any of these, let's be honest.
Right. But that's one I clearly can see them blowing. The Jets win. I can see that as a win. Jaguars, I can see that as a win. That's 2. Seattle's a win. That's 3. You're already almost halfway there right there. Giants could be 4. I think you split with the Vikings and Bears. That's 7. That's already you're over. And if you don't split with them, you also have the Panthers on there. You have the Packers in week 7 and week 18, which who knows what roster the Packers are going to be putting out there. Granted, it is on the road in January in Green Bay.
But it's a very good point to be made in the fact that you don't know what this Packers offense is going to look like. Now, Aaron Rodgers has a propensity to
I'm more leaning on the fact
make receivers out of guys. So
week 18 in Green Bay, we may not see Aaron Rodgers. Is my point. Like we've seen that in years past quite often, where we don't see Aaron Rodgers when we play the Packers in the final week of the season.
I'll be honest with you. I think the Packers, if they're not terrible, which I just don't see the Packers being terrible.
Aaron Rodgers.
They're going to be very much in the playoff mix.
Yes, I'll agree with you there. However, I do think the NFC North is so damn weak that I think it legitimately could be anybody's ball game. Yeah. Like it's just a really weak division this year.
Like, I actually honestly do think a lot of it is going to rely on what will rookie receiver Christian Watson do in his first season there in Rodgers. I mean, Alan Lazard was really good playing opposite Devontae Adams, but he's not number one.
You mean Sammy Watkins can't pull through? Isn't that's who they signed, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is.
I actually have no idea where Sammy Watkins went, but so I do think a lot of that offense is going to rely on.
They signed Sammy Watkins.
I do think a lot of that offense is going to rely on how ready is Christian Watson.
Well, basically. Also you got to remember their running game is really good too. Like Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are studs.
It's going to. I bet you right now it's going to be a run first offense for at least the first 6 games.
I
this season.
Still think. If I were to pick right here, right now, because their defense is also really freaking good, the Packers are my pick to win the NFC North. I'm not saying they're going to win 12, 13 games, but I think they can win it winning 10 or 11 games. Like it's not the same Packers team that had the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams duo, but it's still going to be a Packers team that beats a lot of good teams. Like I don't think they're a bad team by any stretch, because we talk about how good their offense is because of guys like Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. People ignore how good their defense was last year. Their secondary was like really good, like really, really good when healthy. Yeah. When healthy, keyword. And they're getting those guys back this year. And their pass rush is also very good. And like they're a good defensive team. And their running game is also really, really good. So I think they're going to, those two aspects of the game are going to be leading the way for the Green Bay Packers. And that's why I feel confident in them being the team that can win the NFC North. And not to say that the Vikings don't have talent, because they do. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins to get the job done. And I don't believe in that coaching staff to get the job done. I think they're just a blunder waiting to happen at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
So and this isn't a Packers show, but they are still, and the Bears, I think, are just a mess entirely. They don't know what to do with the quarterback position because Justin Fields, can't really say he's underwhelmed, but he hasn't been as elusive as they probably expected to this point. And I do think Justin Fields can be successful in this league. I just don't think he's going to be, I think he's going to be more of a game manager, that's all.
Yeah.
That can run the ball a little bit, that can move. But either way, to kind of go with what you were saying there, I do think the schedule plays a hand in why I like the Lions over 6.5, absolutely. But
it plays a very big hand.
Yes, but I also think that this team is just improved. Like I think the pass rush improved. I think you look at the linebacking core, they probably improved a little bit, not much. You look at the wide receiver core, they drastically improved. You look at the offensive line, they're going to get better because, one, they're healthy. Two, you add another year of experience onto this group. You add the fact that the running back core is going to be healthy. You add in, there's just a lot. Like, this offense could actually be good if Jared Goff plays well, and he's going to be given every chance to succeed. And defensively speaking, they made upgrades on that side of the ball. You look at... what's the kid's name out of Kentucky they drafted? The pass rusher.
I feel like we're so far moved from the draft, I forgot almost everybody's
and it's not even that long ago. But either way, they invested a lot into building the pass rush on this team. So I firmly believe it's going to be better. So with the improvements that this roster made, I'd honestly Josh Pascal, that's right. I'd honestly I'd be pretty comfortable saying if this team doesn't see 6 wins, I think that's kind of a disappointment.
Oh, I 100% agree. My actual expectation is 6 wins. Like I think Vegas nailed the over under.
Oh, I do too. But like that's my low side expectation. Like that, if they don't hit that, I'm disappointed. If they hit
my
7 wins, I'm
expectation
good. If
based
they
on
hit
schedule
more,
alone,
I'm happy.
my expectation based on like if I'm taking last year's team and putting them into this schedule, my expectation is 6 wins.
Yes, and then you add in the fact that they've improved in several facets of the game, plus another year of the system on both sides of the ball. I think you're like, if somebody came out and told me that the Lions went above 500 this year because they went 9-8, I don't think I'd like get that shocked by it. It would probably surprise me a little bit, but I wouldn't be like, oh my God, they played way above what they should have.
Yeah.
They're not that, like, roster-wise, they're getting better. They are. They're getting better. I'm not saying that they're going to win the division by any measure. I still think they're, a couple steps behind some of the better teams in the division, but they're going to be a threat some weekends, and then they're going to be a threat against some of these good teams, like the Cowboys. Watch out. The Dolphins, watch out. Like, some of these teams are going to have a tough time against this Lions team.
I feel the Dolphins are very much a wild card this season in terms of...
The Dolphins have been a wild card every year for the last, 5 years. Some weeks they look so damn good, and then other weeks you're like, oh, this is the Dolphins team I remember.
But yeah, I think by far the most dangerous game on our schedule is Buffalo on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that one could be ugly. I think, I'll say this. The game against New England, in New England, that probably won't be pretty because Bill Belichick always just seems to destroy us.
Yeah, but it's not a tundra just yet.
Right. But Bill Belichick always just seems to have the right game plan against us.
Yeah.
Like he does against most. That Bills game that Bills game on Thanksgiving, I would probably say those are our two scariest. And if Green Bay has something to play for come week 18, watch out. That could be ugly or brutal.
Now, before we move on to the Pistons, last question for you. How disappointed are you that we don't have any primetime games? Also, don't even have a 4 o'clock game. They're like literally all 1 o'clock games aside Thanksgiving.
Am I the only one that just doesn't give a shit?
I like having a one primetime game that I look forward to. Or
because then I have to stay up later and be tired on Monday after watching the Lions. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. But I only care about that when the team's really good, and I have no inclination to believe that this team's really good right now.
I'm usually watching the primetime game regardless for fantasy purposes or DFS.
I mean, I am too. But there's there's a lot of weeks where if the game isn't close or my fantasy matchup's not close or whatever, where I'm just like, I'll check the stats tomorrow morning. It's gonna be the same regardless if I watch or not. So what the hell do I care? If I got something I got to do in the morning or I got work tomorrow, it's not that big of a deal if I miss half a game or something.
And I also kind of like the couple 4 o'clock games that we'll usually have in a season. Especially last year that we had
the only time we ever have 4 o'clock games is when we play a team out west.
Exactly.
Which this year, how many teams out west are we playing? 0, I believe. 0.
That's why we don't have any 4 o'clock games.
Right.
But it's actually really fun because how the 1 o'clock slate.
Oh no, we got Seattle, but it's at home.
It's usually the 1 o'clock slate's usually a little more full than the afternoon slate. Yeah. And I love being in the sports, but you get that full 1 o'clock slate, that full excitement of the 1 o'clock slate. You have a bunch of you have your whole all your bets to look forward to. Still, nothing's dead yet. It's the 1 o'clock slate, and then 4 o'clock, you still had the local Lions game. Come on, you have.
They always disappoint me in the 4 o'clock hour. I also, I don't know, maybe I'm just a weird Lions fan where, I feel like I have this routine on Sundays where I watch the Lions in the 1 o'clock hour and I flip between some other games or Red Zone or something. In the 4 o'clock hour, I'm either, I usually will put Red Zone on or a game that I'm interested in the background while I'm doing other things. You know what I mean? I that's kind of become my routine as a Lions fan in a football.
It's just Red Zone is so much more fun at the 1 o'clock games than it is for the 4 o'clock games because it's bouncing around so much. You get the Octobox.
The Red Zone is fun. Red Zone also gets very old very quickly. I think they need to mix up the voice on it. Mm-hmm. He's not bad.
Perfect solution. Just call me the sports book.
Yeah, good luck getting, me to spend all day at a sports book on a Sunday. That ain't happened. I might get crucified for that.
No, you think you'd swing it once.
Maybe.
Or how much 1 to 4?
I could probably do that, yeah. You also got to remember, I use my weekends to get a lot of work done around the house. So, like, it's tough for me to take a whole day to go just, play fuck around.
That's how you spend days. It's how you have fun with your days. Just play fuck around all day.
Right, but then I don't get work done at the house, and then shit falls apart. And that's a problem. But either way, no, I'm excited for this Lions season. There's a lot, in my opinion, there actually is quite a bit to be positive about or optimistic about with this roster, with the rookies we brought in. I'll tell you what, when Jameson Williams comes back and is ready to go and is full go, oh man, that offense is going to look good.
Oh, yeah.
You got Amon-Ra St. Brown in the perfect position in the slot. You got DJ Chark out wide, Jameson Williams out wide. You add Quintez Cephas into that. You add Khalif Raymond into that. Like, you got some weapons there. Mm-hmm. I ain't going to lie to you. And then you add TJ Hawkinson, full health back. DeAndre Swift, full health back. You add that offensive line that's potentially elite tier. Like, if Jared Goff can't get it done with that, this dude should be playing in the CFL or the USFL or the AFL or the XFL, whatever FL that isn't the NFL. That's where he should be. If he can't get it done with this roster.
I 100% agree.
Let's switch it on over to the Pistons. You ready?
Let's kick it off with the our continuing draft prospect profile. This week, we got what I feel are two most likely picks that we'll be choosing from in Jaden Ivey and Shaden Sharp.
Yep. Let's
start with Shaden.
The guy we know less about.
I know nothing about him. Let's keep moving. Okay. No, Shane is every year there's a mystery man in the draft. This year it's Shaden Sharp. As a lot of you probably know, he came into Kentucky. He reclassified, came into Kentucky.
Didn't play a game.
And did not play a game. Reclassified, basically get into this draft class. Mm-hmm. Why he didn't play a game, I still don't know. I would like to know, but I still don't know. There have been rumors swirling around, and Calipari has come on and said as well that if he had played, he'd be in the conversation number one pick in this draft. But that's a big if, and that's just taking someone at their word. We've seen footage of him shooting in an empty gym. I mean, he looks super athletic. He did register the highest vertical of all time. I don't know if it was at his pro day or what, but at a workout, he registered the highest vertical of all time. He beat Michael Jordan's vertical. Take that for what it is.
Just means he's stupid athletic.
Yep. Which that's the one thing I know for certain with Shaden Sharp is you're getting someone who's super athletic. Reports are that he's a really smart player. Reports are that he is a 3-level scorer. But again, this was all in high school. I could look smart playing against high schoolers. College athletes or NBA
Not just
players,
that, Canadian high schoolers.
NBA players can make you look real dumb real quick. I mean, look at Cade, for example. Not saying Cade looks dumb on the court, but
he certainly made a lot of mistakes, though.
So I'm saying,
his turnover numbers were ridiculous.
Look how many turnovers he had in his rookie season, and this is a guy that was touted as being one of the most cerebral prospects to come in the draft in years. Mm-hmm. Not that Shaden Sharp is going to be a elite ball handler or anything, but just saying that the NBA game is very different from college game, let alone the high school game. So I really take the whole he's a smart player with a grain of salt.
I do too. I don't think you can really sit here and say that, oh, he's a smart player. Mm-hmm. Yeah, against Canadian high school basketball teams, he was smart. Like, that doesn't take that much. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different ballgame when you're talking the NBA. He is 19 years old as of May 30th. Happy belated birthday, Shaden Sharp. 6'6", 200 pounds, 7-foot wingspan. Mm-hmm. The thing that, throws me off the most about him, and it's the obvious aspect of we know nothing about this kid other than that he's super athletic and is probably really good at basketball for a 19-year-old. You can't even go and find.
What we're trying to find out is he good at basketball?
Right. You can't even go and find a bunch of high school stats on him. Like, there's not even a ton out there.
I did find a high school highlight, like game highlight for him.
Highlights, though. Even Darko had highlights.
He put up 19 points, I believe it was. But you know what's concerning? He shot 2 for 8 from the free throw line.
Well, that's not good.
But he's supposedly a really good shooter. So.
Interesting. Maybe it was an off night. I mean, you look at the comparisons that he has. He draws comparisons, guys like Zach LaVine, a good shooter from outside. He draws comparisons to Vince Carter, Andrew Wiggins, guys who could shoot outside, developed their shot a little bit later in their careers more so, but relied on athleticism, especially early on in their career, to get the job done, and their length.
I agree with all those as ceilings.
I mean, I do too. But
ceilings.
Sharp is known as an explosive athlete with a nose for the rim. He obviously likes to use his athleticism to get inside and get up and play above the rim. He's got a quick first step, and he loves to finish around the rim. Reports are saying he's improved tremendously as a ball handler. He's a solid pull-up jump shooter and shot maker from beyond the 3-point line. Like, he's obviously got a lot of athleticism and can get to the rim. My biggest question mark is seeing things like he's improved as a shooter from mid-range and outside as a pull-up shooter. That tells me he's probably not the best shooter right now. He's probably lacking in that category. He's got improved ball handling that allows him to be more creative as a scorer and a playmaker. He's got great length, moves well laterally, and just he's got all the tools on both sides of the ball. Whether or not he actually plays defense effectively, I would probably wager not, because most guys at that level don't, because they develop defense when they usually get to college. But
I mean, he's got the
intangibles to be a really good defender. We just don't know.
He's got the wingspan. He's got the lateral quickness. We know that. So, like, it's there. It's just...
The question is the effort going to be there?
Yeah, and playing defense against high scorers is very different.
Right.
Playing defense against NBA players.
And frankly, like, there's a lot to be excited about with Shaedon Sharpe, but the more you read on him, the more you can also find reasons to talk yourself out of him.
Yeah.
Because there is so many question marks, and you can somewhat read between the lines on some of this and say, okay, so yeah, that's really nice, but is the shot actually that good? You know, how good is he with a hand in his face when he's 25 feet from the basket? How good is he when he's 20 feet from the basket with a hand in his face? Is he able to hit a step back? Is he able to, that type of stuff is extremely crucial in the NBA game that unfortunately we really didn't get to see because he didn't play college ball. And I really can't compare any high school film or anything to say that he's capable of doing that. Yeah, you can straight up tell a guy is a poor shooter in high school film. Yes. But can you say that he's absolutely a lights out great shooter? No, you really can't, because he's not playing against NBA defenses or even college defenses. You can say that the guy's got ability, but you can't say how good that ability is going to become.
Exactly. Like, I can say his jumper looks good. He has smooth form. But again, like, you look at Markelle Fultz, for example. He was a great shooter in college. Now, there is a shoulder injury, too. But, like, the shot completely failed him when he came to the NBA.
Absolutely.
Now, unlike Markelle Fultz, hopefully Shaedon Sharpe is going to come to the NBA fully healthy.
I also think
Shaedon Sharpe has athleticism.
He has the athleticism to give him, kind of the baseline. But I also think Shaedon Sharpe has a lot higher ceiling than Markelle Fultz ever did.
I'm just talking about the shooting specifically.
Right.
That's all.
But he's also got other tools that can contribute to the game.
Exactly.
Like Andrew Wiggins, for example. Even when his shot wasn't there in Minnesota, he still was an effective offensive NBA player. Defensively, it was there. It could have been there, just he didn't care to try. Like, I was a big believer that Andrew Wiggins' lack of defensive ability was entirely because of the fact that dude just didn't care to play defense. Like, he had all the intangibles, lateral quickness, movement ability. Like, I absolutely could have seen him play effective defense. He just didn't care to. But he also played with Cat, who doesn't care to play defense either. So, hey.
Yep. So, yeah, what I feel that Shaedon Sharpe could be, if everything is as I want it to be with him.
Sky's the limit at that point. Like, guy could be a superstar.
He's a pretty perfect player to pair alongside Cade. It's just...
There's nobody in the draft with a higher ceiling than Shane Sharp in my mind. Maybe Chet Holmgren. Maybe. But that's it. Like, that's where the list stops. And that's not even, like...
a question of, A, do you want to take that risk? And B, do you want to invest amount of time it's probably going to take to develop them?
Right. Like
those are the two major questions.
That's the other question. That was the next question I was going to get to with him and the Pistons, for example, because there is a very legitimate chance the Pistons end up taking him at number 5.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot of reports say that Shane Sharp is sneaking into the top 3 on most draft boards for NBA teams, and he's going to go in the top 3, and that's very likely. Like I definitely think that's a very legitimate possibility. But if he doesn't, and he is there for you at number 5, let's take a look at the fit with the Pistons. Like, how does he fit into the Pistons roster? Being a 6'6" wing at 200 pounds with a 7-foot wingspan, obviously he'd have to slate in at the number 3 at the 3 on the wing, which would move Sadiq Bey to the 4, which is where he played when Jeremy Grant was out.
So he could very much play the 2. Shane Sharp could very much play the 2.
He's got the size for it. I don't think he plays the 2 though. Like, I don't think that is his role. I'm pretty sure he is a forward. He plays... No, I guess he does play the 2. Just kidding. Never mind. Who was I thinking of? Yeah, he plays the 2. So he would slot in alongside Cade, likely. So then you would still have Sadiq Bey at the 3, question mark at 4, Jeremy Grant or, insert, and then a question mark at the 5 as well. But the fit being there gives the Pistons a massive upgrade in the athleticism department, because right now the most athletic guy on the roster is Hamidou Diallo.
Yeah,
but
like, how do you? The question is, if he's on the roster, how do you approach it? You're not going to throw him into the fire like you did with Killian.
You really can't, because the guy hasn't played legitimate organized basketball. Like, he's played Canadian high school ball, and I know I give
like you probably start him off in the G League.
Jokingly, but like, how good is Canadian high school ball? We have no idea.
You probably start off in the G League. That's like if you draft.
I'll be honest with you, I think I'd be a little bit disappointed he starts in the G League. Like
he probably is going to have to.
You're probably
talking
right,
you're talking throwing a guy straight out of high school into the NBA off the rip. Like, he needs to get some reps under him. I guess Summer League will tell us a little bit about how ready he is, but
I don't know. That is a tough pill to swallow, man. Taking a guy top 5 and immediately throwing him to the G League, like that's a tough pill to swallow.
That's kind of like the reality you have to face with Shane Sharp. It's the kind of timeline you're looking at with him.
Who's the last guy that was taken in the top 5 and immediately thrown to the G League? Has there even been one?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that guy's taking top 5 that have been drafting stashes, though.
Which, yes, there's guys taking top 5 that are drafting stashes, but I would be more comfortable with it. I don't know that I'd be more comfortable with a guy who is a draft and stash in the top 5, because you know what he could become, than a guy that just like, all right, G League. Like,
so would you say the better course of action is to just start him off with like 10 minutes a game of NBA action?
Probably. Isn't that what the Raptors did with a guy like OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam? Like, I would probably be more comfortable with that. Like a 10 minutes a guy game, get his feet wet, see some legitimate NBA ball, get a lot of reps in practice, and get an opportunity to actually test what he's working on. Because I'll be honest with you, the G League isn't a test for a lot of these guys. It's the G League is there, in my opinion, not for guys to develop, but for guys to either keep their careers alive, to hopefully build their game into something that could get them back into the league.
For me, it's not meant,
guys.
For me, it would be meant to test him. It'd be meant to give him some competition that's higher than high school ball before I put him in the NBA.
But if he's supposed to be this good, I don't know that I can justify putting him into the G League straight away. If he seriously struggles in the NBA, then you move him to the G League. But I don't know that I can justify putting a top 5 pick with this.
So you give him a chance at NBA minutes first and see, does he earn more minutes, or does he need some G League time?
Absolutely. That's what I do. Because I want to see him in NBA action. And I don't think the G League is NBA action by any means.
It's not. No.
It's not even close.
That's why I mentioned G League, because there's there's been that question.
Let me put it this way. College ball is better than G League ball in terms of competition. At least Power 5 college ball. If that weren't the case, why are none of the G League guys going top 5 outside of Jalen Green?
Dyson Daniels might go top 10.
Ooh. How many college guys are going ahead of him?
No.
Yeah.
Jalen Green went number 2 last year.
Okay, that's one. One. And that's my point. Like, the better talent for basketball is not in the G League. It's in college ball. Which, again, college ball is dying because of the fact that there's no carryover from year to year, and it's a huge issue. And we've talked about it on the live version of our show, ad nauseum, but they need to fix college ball. I'll leave it at that. But regardless, I think you got to give Shaedon Sharpe a chance. I think you have to. I can't sit here and justify throwing him to the G League right away because I don't think it's actually giving him a real test. I think that's just... It just doesn't make sense to me. I think he's a guy you got to give him a test, give him 10 minutes a game. Let's see what you got. If you earn more, you get more. If you don't, maybe we throw you to the G League then. Just the ceiling level and the potential that's there and the talent level, I have to. I have to see what I got here. And against legitimate competition. Because in all reality, if you throw him to the G League, do you ever really find out if he can play against NBA ball?
No, it's not for that reason to me. It's more for just kind of upping his ability to the speed at which he processes the game, up that a little bit before throwing him into full speed NBA action kind of thing.
Again, though,
like his little transition.
I still think that puts him a step back because I think this is a guy that is a little bit too talented for that. The thing about putting guys that with this type of talent and this type of ceiling in the G League is what happens if they dominate but develop bad habits. Then you have to tear them down entirely when they come into the NBA, and that can destroy a kid's career.
Yeah, but there's also the question of like what we did with Killian, where we threw him in the top fire too early and it killed his confidence. Like
Killian is not anywhere close to the prospect this guy is.
No,
not
I know.
Even close.
I agree, but there's still that rawness, and we threw a raw kid out into the NBA when he clearly wasn't ready.
I don't think you can compare the two. I think the talent level and the ceiling are two completely different stratospheres.
Comparing ceiling or anything. You're just comparing these are two raw players.
I don't think you can compare the two players. There's no comparison there in my mind because of the talent level differential. Like Killian Hayes, you look at him being the raw talent that he was. The ceiling wasn't necessarily there either. Like you didn't really know what this guy could be. You didn't know what, and you didn't know if he was able to pace the game a little bit more. You had to take a chance to. And Killian is another one where I would have said, give him a chance in the NBA. Let's see what happens and send him back.
I liked it when we did it at first, and then last year I was advocating for some more G League time until.
Well, in all reality, it probably panned out to do it that way because I don't want to see Shaedon Sharpe because Killian Hayes isn't a guy that's going to dominate the G League and develop bad habits. Granted, he did dominate at a point, but he didn't just start off dominating the G League and develop bad habits. He just started to grow certain aspects of his game. And even now, like he's a bench guy. We're talking about Shaedon Sharpe. If Shaedon Sharpe ends up as a bench guy, that's a drastic disappointment. Drastic. And I'm not saying the same thing for Killian Hayes. I don't think that's a drastic disappointment for him based on what his projections were. If Shaedon Sharpe ends up as anything short of a star, that's a drastic disappointment. So I don't want to see Shaedon Sharpe come straight into the league, go into the G League right away and develop bad habits, and then you got to tear him down because he can't play NBA ball because of bad habits he developed in the G League. I'd rather him get experience in the NBA, see whether or not this guy can handle it, play him 10, 15 minutes a game, get him some run, see what the guy's got. I don't care what he has against G League talent. I care what he has against NBA talent. Give him 10, 15 minutes a game. If he earns more, give him more. If he doesn't, reduce it. And if it gets to a point where you can't play him, throw him to the G League then. Let him build, and at least by that point, you know what he has to work on. Right now, you don't.
We've gotten down the we've gotten down the wormhole enough on this one.
No, I feel you there. But that's the thing with Shane Sharp is you can get down the wormhole because you don't know what you got here.
Yeah. God, imagine how long we're going to talk about Jaden Ivey, someone we do know things about.
Well, see, I feel like that's when there's more you know about a guy, there's less to talk about there because there's less to speculate on.
Mm-hmm.
Like Shane Sharp,
and there's still a ton to speculate on with Jaden Ivey because you're putting him in a role that he did not play in college.
Right. But you look at a guy like Shaden Sharp, he could either be prime Brandon Roy or he could be Darko in 3 years. Like you never know. Mm-hmm. So there's such a wide range of question marks there.
Yeah. But yeah, moving over to the other guard prospect at this spot in the draft is we do have Jaden Ivey out of Purdue. Another super athletic, in this case, combo guard. He was the primary ball handler at Purdue.
Because
you draft him. Yeah, he does not have to be. I mean, you could argue he's better off not being the primary ball handler.
Yes.
I mean, he does feel like more of a two guard. Just looking at the way he facilitates. But then again,
size
Purdue,
a little under for a two guard, but that doesn't really matter with the Pistons because Cade's huge. So
the big question mark for me. Well, first of all, let me tell you things I really like about Jaden Ivey. One, he gives me two things I really want opposite of Cade: athleticism, shot creation.
Yep, and an ability to hit shots.
For the most part, he's. But at least this past season, he's been able to hit the shots. He did get a little cold towards the end of the year.
Yep. He dropped underneath that 36% from outside because of the end of the year.
Yep.
But in the tournament, until his final game, he played really freaking well. Like, really well in the tournament. So,
and on the defensive side of the ball, he's inconsistent, but when he's locked in, he's actually a really good defender. It's just, can you keep him locked in on the defensive end?
The thing I like about a guy like Cade Cunningham who shows a natural leadership ability,
it helps.
I feel like it can lock a guy like Jaden Ivey in.
Yep. But here's the other reason that he could pair really well with Cade Cunningham, and why I think he does make a pretty good two guard more than a one. He's super active off ball offensively, and you need that with Cade. Like Killian playing off of Cade. Or Hami playing off of Cade. It just, offensively, it's just not quite there in terms of finding shots, making plays. It's nice defensively, but Jaden Ivey is going to give you that guy that Cade can find in a half-court offense to get a bucket. And he adds a lot more excitement to this roster. But
yeah, he adds a lot of athleticism also. Like he's an exciting athlete.
Yeah, but what scares me is his shooting this season to be believed. I mean, he shot a lot worse his freshman year, and he kind of regressed towards those numbers in the last 10 or so games of the season. And his free throw percentage would kind of indicate that he's somewhere in between. He shot 73% from the line, which isn't terrible, but isn't great. Isn't
that pretty standard for college players?
I don't think so. I don't know what the college average for guards is. I have no idea. But if he can still hover around that 37% three-point percentage, then I'm really happy with getting a guy like Jaden Ivey. I'm not too worried about defense because, as you said, I do think that playing opposite Cade will help him stay locked in defensively.
Yes, absolutely.
Or even if plays opposite Killian, I think it'll have the same effect. But
absolutely agree. Like I think Jaden Ivey is one of those guys that if you put him alongside guys who are gonna get him to buy in, he's gonna buy in. Like he's a guy who wants to win, wants to play well, and wants his team to succeed. And I think when you put him along guys with a similar mindset, he's gonna lock in and play well. He obviously adds good athleticism to this team to a team that desperately needs it. For a point guard, he's got solid size, not so much for a shooting guard, but he brings a lot to the game. A lot of quickness, good first step, good shooting ability. There's just a lot of potential with Jaden Ivey. And yes, there's question marks there, and a lot of it centers around whether or not he can hit that outside shot because Yeah, he was a really good three-point shooter this year to start, but like you said, he did get cold towards the end of the year. He draws comparisons to guys like Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, which, okay, I love that. I would love to see Donovan Mitchell on this team, to be frank with you, but like, there's a lot to be excited about with Jaden Ivey because of what the athleticism that's there. Like, and that's one of the things I think the Pistons need to zero in on, and the fit that's there. With Cade and with Sadiq, like Jaden Ivey fills that 100%. So, but you look at what he brings to this team that desperately needs the athleticism and the quickness, and Jaden Ivey fits all of those needs there at the 2-guard position. And frankly, if I look at the needs on this team between an anchor big man and a 2-guard that can shoot the ball and be athletic, I'd probably say I would rather invest in our backcourt right now because you already started to with Cade and Killian. So let's lock that in and nail down an elite tier backcourt and start winning some damn games. Because that's what if you have an elite tier backcourt in this league, you can win some games. At the very least, be competitive in the playoffs. So if Jaden Ivey pans out in the Pistons, I almost said Lions, but if the Pistons take Jaden Ivey and he pans out to be a good basketball player or even a great basketball player, a duo of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey is elite tier in my mind. So then you just got to build around it, and you've already got your start there with Bay, Bagley, Stewart. You've got your start. So,
especially if Jaden Ivey hits my comp, which is the 2-guard version of John Morant, as in the John Morant version that's not averaging nearly 10 assists a game.
Which, I mean, he can spread the ball a bit. I don't think he's like an elite tier playmaker, but
again, he's not going to be your lead playmaker. But
right, I mean he draws high ratings in terms of passing the basketball. Like he's got solid vision. He doesn't have Cade vision, but he's got good vision, and he's able to move the ball.
The jaw comparisons go farther than just the hairstyle. Like the speed and athleticism are very jaw-like. He's a little bit taller, and he's got about 20 pounds on jaw, which I guess is a good thing to have that same speed and athleticism with more size. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
The 3-point percentage is very similar. The free throw percentage is very similar.
They're
general scoring ability is very similar. So,
if I were to sit here right now, you would have to try pretty hard to convince me not to take Jaden Ivey at 5, and that's kind of been the case when I was thinking about the Pistons potentially landing at 2 or 3. Like, you'd have to convince me pretty hard not to take Jaden Ivey.
So does that mean you are on, if I ask you the question right now, Jaden Ivey or Shaden Sharp, if both are available at 5? It's Shaden?
The ceiling with Shaden Sharp is so attractive.
It is.
So attractive. But I think in my book, I think Jaden Ivey wins by, like, a hair. Like, Shaden Sharp,
I think guys I'm right there with you.
That are... we've talked about
star
especially
potential.
Right. Of the guys we've talked about, those two are the clear top 2 in my mind. Now, we haven't gotten into any of the big men, but those 2 are the top 2 in my mind for the guys that we've talked about.
Yep.
So let's move on real quick.
Couple quick items, before we close out the show. So the Cavs.com writer, don't remember his name.
Is it the guy who hates the Pistons?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember hearing this individual's name before.
There's a certain Cavs writer that's been like blackballed by the Pistons organization. I think that is him.
You sure about that?
That name sounds familiar.
Anyway, he said that the Detroit Pistons and Indiana Pacers are reportedly the biggest threats to poach shooting guard Colin Sexton from the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I think he's doing this because a lot of Cleveland fans and Cleveland people in their media don't want Sexton anymore. So
he did acknowledge that Sexton has fans in Cleveland's front office, but he went on to say that the sense I get is the Cavs are more comfortable in the 15 to 18 million range, where Sexton's camp is eyeing something around 22. Sources say Cleveland's front office doesn't believe there's a team willing to give Sexton a contract worth $20 million annually. Do you think that Troy Weaver, do you think he should be willing to give Sexton a contract worth $20 million per year?
If you tell me it's 20 mil, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. You tell me you get into the 22, 23 range, I don't love it. I don't love Colin Sexton as a player, I'll be honest with you. Like, I think he's a selfish player. I think he pisses a lot of his teammates off. I don't think he's a good locker room guy, and I don't want him to piss Kate off. Like in all reality, or Sadiq Bey or anybody that he would take shots away from. Like I don't want to see another massive ball stopper on this team because I don't want to. I think the way that this team succeeds is through ball movement moving forward because of the amount of guys that we're going to have that can shoot the ball. I mean, let's say we add Jaden Ivey to this team. He's not a ball stopper. He can move the ball. You got 3-4 guys that can effectively move the basketball on your roster at that point. And you also look at Jeremy Grant's metrics and how much of a ball stopper he was and how worse the team was when he was on the floor because of the ball stopping. This team clearly does not succeed with a ball stopper. So, frankly, with that being said, Colin Sexton is not on the top of my list of guys I want to see the Pistons go get.
So the answer is no, you wouldn't pay more than $20 million.
No, I don't think I would.
Especially if we end up drafting Jaden Ivey.
Oh, God, if we draft Jaden Ivey, there's no way in hell I'm paying him $20 million plus.
I kind of share the same concerns you do. This team, if anything, last year they showed an ability to move the ball.
Yep.
They did a really great job of passing the ball around until they found an open shot.
Yep.
And I'm very worried that our hang up with a guy like Jeremy Grant, who, again, I love as a player. I just don't want to extend him.
He doesn't really fit here.
But the ball stopping that we saw with him is just going to be that times 10 with Colin Sexton. Like, if we thought Jeremy Grant was a ball stopper, wait till Colin Sexton comes to town. But no, I think I agree with you. I am not sure I'd be willing to pay Colin Sexton north of 20. Definitely wouldn't be willing to do it if we end up drafting Jaden Ivey or Shane Sharp.
Right.
If we didn't, I mean, I'd be willing to at least consider it. But again, I just don't know if his play style, his mentality on the court is a fit with this team, with the culture we're trying to build. One other item, James Edwards released a article with the Hawks beat writer. So the Hawks, if you remember, were one of the teams that were named to be in the Jeremy Grant sweepstakes at the trade deadline. So it's sounding like the Hawks are still in on Jeremy Grant, possibly around the NBA draft. He did ask the Hawks beat writer, what do you think that Hawks front office would be willing to give up? And what they came up with was one of Bogdan Bogdanovic or Danilo Gallinari plus the Hawks first round pick, which I believe lands at 16. And James basically said that, like Bogdan plus 16 could make sense. Didn't sound like James Edwards is interested in Danilo Gallinari. I'm not sure I'm interested in Danilo Gallinari. But to be honest with you, even though his contract is technically more expensive per annum, it's also technically a little more team friendly because it expires a year earlier. So you're stuck paying Bogdan Bogdanovic $18 million for the next 3 years. Meanwhile, Danilo is 20.5 for the next 2.
Right. Bogdan is a guy, though, that is a contributor.
Yeah.
Like, he's a guy
Danilo can barely stay on the court.
Danilo's terrible. He used to be good when he was with the Nuggets. Now he's terrible. But Bogdan is a guy that you can legitimately put in this roster and say that he can contribute day one as an outside shooter, a potential scorer, a guy who can get hot some nights and put up 25, 30 points. Like, he can contribute with this team. And adding 16 along with that, you need guys like Bogdanovic. You need those guys, those wing scorers that can just shoot. You need a guy that can shoot. He can do it. Like, you need those guys. And 18 mil isn't astronomical for a guy that can shoot at his caliber. So I don't necessarily hate that trade. And yes, Bogdanovic is a downgrade from Jeremy Grant. There's no question about that.
100%.
But
is 16 enough to make?
Could you see a little bit of addition by subtraction there too? Because you got to look at but you got to remember, you got to look at the metrics last year of how poor the Pistons were with Grant on the floor.
I get that. I'm more worried about paying a guy that's going to be 30 by the time the season starts. 18 mil for 3
Yeah, but
years.
you're not paying a guy like Russell Westbrook turning 30, 18 mil a year. Granted, that's a little different argument, but you're not paying a guy who relies on athleticism 30 at the age of 30, 18 mil a year. You're talking about a guy whose job is to sit in the damn corner, catch and shoot. You can do that till you're 49.
But you could also argue you could find that pretty easily.
Not to the caliber of Bogdanovich.
Like Wayne Ellington was that guy for
not to the caliber Bogdanovich gets you. Not to the caliber Bogdanovich gives you. Bogdanovich is a legitimate threat as a shooter. Wayne Ellington is not. Don't ever get those two confused.
Wayne Ellington is a legitimate threat as a shooter.
No, he's not. If he was, he'd be making 20 mil a year. He's not.
I think the difference between the two is size. That's why he's not
size and consistency. Wayne Ellington is not a consistent shooter. He's very, very streaky, very hot and cold, very nights where he'll shoot and make 5 threes. The next night he shoots and misses 7. The difference is Bogdanovich night in, night out is almost guaranteed to give you 3, 4, 5 threes.
They have almost the exact same down to the 1,000th decimal place. Almost.
I don't really care about shooting percentages.
384 for Bogdanovich, 382 for Wayne Ellington.
That's fine.
Almost identical.
I'm not buying into the percentages as much as I'm buying into the fact that a lot of Wayne Ellington's numbers are skewed by the fact there's nights where he goes 5 out of 5 or 7 out of 7, and then the next 2 nights he goes 0 out of 7. Bogdanovich is very consistent. Wayne Ellington is not. You can't rely on him night in, night out like you can Bogdanovich. I would rather have the guy who consistently shoots 39% over the guy that inconsistently shoots 39%. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I'll be honest with you. I actually thought Bogdanovich shot 40 plus. I thought he was a 40% 3-point shooter.
There's very few players in the league that do that.
Yeah, no, I thought Bogdanovich was one of them. So here, check this out. So 2019-2020, he shot 37.2%. 2020-21, he shot 43.8%.
Holy shit.
21-22, back down to 36.8%.
Okay, so 1 year was clear anomaly. But my point is, I'd rather have the guy who's consistent night in, night out, and Bogdanovich is the definition of that. He's a guy who is very consistent.
Again, I like Bogdanovich. I don't
think 18 mil is astronomical for a guy like that.
But would you rather do that, or would you rather get someone like Eric Gordon expiring deal plus 10 from Portland?
I don't like Eric Gordon at all.
It's the expiring contract.
I understand. I just don't like the player at all. What you're telling me is I get the same expiring deal because Jeremy Grant's already expiring, and the 10th pick, or I get a guy who contributes in Bogdanovich, not an expiring deal,
but then you got to move.
But I also get 16. I'll be honest with you. What would you look to get at 10? You're not getting a star at 10. I can almost guarantee you that.
At 10, you're looking at someone like Jalen Duren. Ben Math could very much still be.
Okay, so 10. A contributing role player.
A big man that you very much need.
A contributing role player. You also need a guy who can shoot the damn ball. Because last year, I believe the Pistons were damn near dead last in the league in shooting.
Yeah, Ben Math could still very much be there at 10.
Could be.
You can get a guy like AJ Griffin, who we talked about a couple weeks ago.
I think he goes a little bit earlier, but that's
right around where he's going 10, 11, 12 ranges where we're seeing him right now.
I personally think he's going to go 8, 9, but yeah.
I mean, I can see it.
Yeah. And that's fine and dandy, but I don't think
the harder question is who I would take at 16.
Right, which that's true in any draft. But regardless, my point is you're hoping to get a guy that can contribute as a role player out of the 10th pick. Well, Bogdanovich does that and contributes well as a role player. Versus then you also add in the fact you get another guy at 16. Guys like Marjon Beauchamp may come into play, or what you hope to get at 10. How much more value does that give you than what Bogdanovich brings you? Yeah. Is my point.
But let's also not forget what you could additionally get for flipping a $20 million expiring contract. People go draft capital to do that.
Yeah, but how much more draft capital do we want with this team? We talked last week about how
our own. We want other people's.
Right. My point is, we talked last week about how we need this team to start winning starting next year. So why would adding draft capital play into the hand there?
Because it's not ours; it's someone else's.
It doesn't matter though.
Just like the Pistons had the Bucks,
right? But Andrew, it's a guy that's going to take 2-3 more years to develop. Is my point. Like I'm at a point where with this team where I'm ready to start trading our future picks so that we can make this team start winning. Like I want to start winning and winning now. So I'm done building draft capital. I don't give a shit anymore. Like, yeah, you want to give me a top 5 pick? Sweet, I'll do it. Depends on who for, but I'm done adding all these draft capital assets to continue this rebuild. No, I want the rebuild to be done. Well, I want it done.
The reality is you're always going to need draft capital. It's unless you're a championship contender, you're always going to need draft capital.
You have your own. And frankly, I want this team to be a championship contender within 2-3 years. Drafting a guy 2 years from now ain't going to add to that. Especially if he's in the mid-teens or whatever. It ain't going to add to that.
Neither is 16 and Bogdan. That's not going to.
I disagree because the Hawks were a championship contender. I disagree. The Hawks were a championship contender
because of Bogdan.
If they didn't have him, I don't think they would be as good. No.
And now, are the Hawks really a championship contender too? Are we?
They were last year.
They're a playoff contender.
Okay, what the hell are the Pistons?
They're not. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Do you need guys like Bogdanovich that contribute as role players to be playoff and championship contenders?
But is he still going to?
My point. And what do you hope the number 10 pick becomes if you get it from Portland? Bogdanovich, a contributing role player. So give me the one that I know already
10 years younger.
I don't give a shit. What is 10 years? Like, I don't care about 10 years from now at this point. I don't.
We're not talking about 10 years from now. We're talking about
right
a player 10 years younger.
A guy who sits in the damn corner and shoots threes. He could do that till he's in a wheelchair. I don't care. You need guys that are in their 30s that can contribute in this league. You can't just throw a bunch of 22-year-olds out there and say, go win a championship.
I 100%
you don't win that way.
I 100% agree. But if you're asking me, would you rather have 10 or would you rather have a 30-year-old with 16 or 10 and expiring that can flip other things?
Give me the 30-year-old. Give me pick 16 and the 30-year-old. Honestly, yes. I don't hate the expiring deal and the 10th pick. I don't hate that. But frankly, I'd rather have guys who can contribute to my goals now. Because my goals now are to win basketball games. They're not to continue a rebuild that's going to take 3-4 more years because, we added more draft capital we added a late first round pick for the Eric Gordon trade. So let me get this straight. You added a 10th pick that you hope turns into Bogdanovich or a little bit better. And you added a 20th pick that you don't even know what the hell he's going to be because those guys half the time don't even make the league. Woo! What the hell did you get there? You just threw your rebuild. You just kicked the can 2 more years down the road.
We're like guaranteeing that the 10th pick is just going to be worthless.
I'm not saying he's worthless. I'm saying he's you hope they become a contributing role player. Him becoming a really good part of your core 3 is a huge bonus, and it's going to take 2-3 years to get that. Like, I don't want to, if we have to wait 3 more years to get winning basketball, Troy Weaver needs to be fucking fired now. I'm not waiting 3 more years for winning basketball. Sorry. I'm done with this.
I love how you're acting like we're suddenly a championship team and we're failing. This is the rant that we're going on right now.
What was my argument last week? I gave you 3 teams that were playoff teams, year 3 of a rebuild. We are now into year 4 of a rebuild, year 3 with Troy Weaver. What is this team going to do this year? We said our expectations are nearing a playoff spot, 35 wins. If they don't hit that this year, that's a big red X. And next year, if they don't make the playoffs, fire them.
No, I mean, I agree with you because of the Cade dynamic. But we also still have to recognize that. You need guys
to put around Cade, Andrew. And guys that take 3 years to develop don't help us anymore. We need guys that can contribute now. We need to win games.
I understand, but it doesn't mean you don't continue building things. You don't just stop.
And am I not continuing to build things by using my own draft capital and my own assets? Why do I need draft capital that's not going to help me for 5 years anymore?
Because Bogdanovich, as good a player as he is, he's a guy you can get similar for cheaper.
Where?
That's why.
Find him. Where? Who? Andrew? Who?
Dude, any 3-point shooter on the free agency market.
Name them.
Because that's what Bogdan brings you is 3-point shooter.
If they were that easy to get, then why are guys like Bogdanovich held on to by their teams for so long? Why are guys like that so hard to get now? You don't get those guys everywhere anymore. Like, they're just not there. You think they are, but they're not. There's a lot of players that you say, oh, he could be this, and they fail miserably. Guys like Bogdanovich who actually do it are not as common as you think. They're not. Why do you think they continue to get the contracts that they get? Because they do it well. Guys like Wayne Ellington, nowhere even close. Nowhere close. You need players that can contribute to your team to build around Cade. If you don't start putting players around Cade and just keep throwing rookies at the guy, Cade's going to say, fuck this, I'm out. And frankly, I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't.
Yeah, but you're treating bringing Bogdan in as if you're bringing a game changer, like you're bringing a high profile.
He's a very important piece to a winning basketball team. Yes. What do you hope the number 10 pick becomes? A very important piece to a winning basketball team. Only it'll take you 3 more years to have that happen.
How many times does it take to, like, yes, it takes, there's times where it takes a draft pick.
Almost every time. Almost every time. Yeah, you have your outliers like Devin Booker, who took 2 years to actually be good in the league, and Donovan Mitchell. You have your outliers. Yeah, they're not common. Like, at least 90% of the time, the guy at the 10th pick takes 3 years to actually be good at basketball. I don't want to wait that long. I'm done with this. I'm done waiting. I'm sick of seeing losing games in this town. We need pieces and ones that contribute now. I don't care about trading expiring deals for draft picks 2 years from now anymore. That doesn't help me. It helps me continue to kick the can for a rebuild down another couple of years.
Even teams that are winning do that. Like, all teams do that. It doesn't mean you're kicking anything down the road.
The difference is they haven't been rebuilding for 4 years. They haven't been a garbage basketball team for several years. They have won and are afforded the luxury of doing that. We're not. We need to just start winning. When you are already winning with the roster that you have and don't need to and can afford to get rid of a piece and add young draft capital and it doesn't become a detriment to your roster, you can do that. You're already a good team. The Pistons don't have that luxury, Andrew. By doing that, all they do is kick the can for a rebuild down 2-3 more years. That's all it does. How does a guy 2 years that is going to be good at basketball, you draft 2 years from now, it takes 2 more years to develop. How is that guy helping this team win now? Are you willing to wait 4 more years for a win?
I mean, if you draft Shaedon Sharpe, that's basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to be kicking the can like another year down the road because it's going to take a minute to develop him.
I believe he can actually become a really good basketball player before then, or a contributing basketball player before then. I think the talent is too high. There's a difference, but again, Andrew, you're not getting a Shaedon Sharpe at 10. Don't even ever get that confused. You're not getting that at 10.
I just brought Shaedon Sharpe because that's what we were talking about drafting at 5.
Okay, regardless, you don't get a player like Shaedon Sharpe at 10. That there's no comparison there. Shaedon Sharpe is a special talent that you can only find inside the top 5. And yeah, sure, you do kind of push it down a little bit, but the ceiling that's there is way different. Mm-hmm. That's a way different scenario because you're talking about a potential superstar here in Shaedon Sharpe versus what? You hope he becomes a really good contributor to your team. I'm done waiting with this team, just like I'm done waiting with the Lions, but I know I'm forever waiting with them, but I am done waiting with this Pistons team. I have expectations for them now. And my expectations do not involve kicking the can for a rebuild down 2-3 more years to get a guy that I hope can contribute to this team 3 years from now. I want guys that can contribute to this team this year, next year, and the year after.
We'll agree to disagree because I think we're running a little over on time.
We're a lot over on time at this point. But why? Let me ask you this: why would you be okay with continuing to lose games for 3 more years?
I think the difference is I'm not equating the Portland trade with continuing to lose games. I view it.
How does that trade help you win games now, Andrew?
You have a significant asset under your belt in a $20 million expiring contract that you don't even necessarily move for picks.
How
you
does
can
that
move
help
for
you
a
win
solid
now?
Player. So that,
when the hell do you ever get a player for an expiring deal? Name one time.
You don't get a player for expiring deal. You put him in a package for a good player.
Okay, when the hell have you ever seen that happen? That doesn't happen. They trade expiring deals for picks every time. Every time.
That's exactly what's going to be happening with this Jeremy Grant thing if that trade happens.
That's going to be a sign-in trade. I can almost guarantee it. That's not going to be a guy who's, you don't get winning basketball players with expiring deals. The reason Jeremy Grant is attractive is because he's also an expiring deal. But you're not getting players for that, and they're not expecting to give up players for that. You don't get contributing players in expiring deals. You get bloated contracts and draft picks.
The idea of trading a expiring deal for a player is if you're trading for a quality player who's usually going to be on a high contract, you need to match contracts. You need to be able to match contracts. Now, teams are taking on the contracts, want those contracts to be expiring. They don't want to keep money on the books. That's what I'm saying. If you're trying
Andrew, you don't got to sit here and mansplain me how an expiring deal
you
works.
just asked
get it. My point is, you very, very rarely see actual quality players on actual contracts get traded in deals that involve expiring deals. You see draft picks move. How many times have I seen a player be involved in an expiring deal trade? I almost never see it. A contributing good basketball player. Sure, there's a guy like Bogdanovich, but how many times do you see that? Not that often. It doesn't happen very often.
And my second point, though, is, let's say even if we did manage to move, even if we're talking about, Eric Gordon expiring deal in 10, and you'd move Eric Gordon for another team's draft pick, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're kicking your can down the road.
Why not? What did you gain? What did your roster gain there, Andrew?
Then whoever you're getting with the number 10 pick.
Who takes 3 years to frickin' develop?
What, are you not drafting this year? Are you ready to win right now?
I need this team to start winning 35 games. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so right now, are you going to tell me right now that the difference between them winning and losing is going to be Bogdanovich? Because
yeah, probably. A guy that no, not Bogdan in particular, a contributing role player right here, right now. Yes, that is the difference between them winning 28 games and 33 games. Yes. And I'll tell you right now, a guy who takes 3 years to develop ain't contributing right now. And I'll tell you also, I do believe that could be the difference between making the playoffs next year and missing the playoffs next year. Why? Because the guy's not ready to contribute extensively.
And then what about limiting you?
Players that and why do you Andrew? You're also hinging a huge question mark on a guy at number 10 that potentially could be a huge bust. You know what Bogdanovich is. He's not a bust. You know what he is. You know he can contribute. You're hoping number 10 can contribute. You're hoping the guy that you get for the Eric Gordon contract is even on your roster, because that's probably a pick in the 20s in all reality. You're hoping they help. And that's hoping they help 2-3 years from now, because they probably aren't going to be from day one. They're not ready. And also, if you're just going to keep throwing 20-year-olds at this roster, this team will never get anywhere. You're just hoping to take a bunch of 20-year-olds.
I'm not saying the only...
So then when are we going to get guys that actually play basketball? When are we going to get guys that have played ball in this league for a few years, Andrew?
Those are the guys that you bring in free agency. Those are the guys that you trade for. Maybe not in the Jeremy Grant trade, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities to get veterans on this team. It doesn't have to mean,
Andrew, you say there's plenty of opportunities. Where are they? When have they happened? When are they coming? Because I've watched this team for 3 years throw middling player after middling player on this roster, after young guy that some of them have panned out, sure. I've just watched this team throw middling veteran talent on this roster that now is no longer here, year after year after year. People don't come here through free agency, Andrew. They don't. Your best signing has been Kelly O'Frickin-Olynyk.
And I mean,
when are we getting quality basketball players on this roster that aren't rookies? Because you can't just win with a bunch of 22-year-olds. Sorry.
That's very true. You can't. But that doesn't, again, we're not talking about signing the top 3 players in free agency. We're talking about just signing quality veterans that can help contribute to this team winning.
Fun fact, those guys don't want to come here either. Want to know how I can say that? Because where are they? They haven't.
You give them 18 to 20 mil, they'll come here.
Oh, so you get the Bogdanovich contract.
That's what I'm saying.
That guy becomes Bogdanovich.
No,
sweet. So we just did the same damn thing. No, I'm suggesting you do now, except you know what you're getting with this.
No,
guy.
This is exactly what I'm saying. Is do you really want to sacrifice it? Assuming both these trades are on the table, would you want to sacrifice 6 picks in the draft to do that when you could probably do something very similar in free agency?
No. Yes, I would do that right here, right now, because then I know I have something. Instead of hoping 10 becomes this, hoping that my other pick becomes a guy who's rosterable, hoping I can convince a guy or overpay a guy to come here and be what he is. Like, have you ever heard the term, one in the hand is better than two in the bush? It's exactly what I'm talking about here. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about moving from 10 to 22 here. We're talking 10 to 16 and getting a guy I know can contribute right here, right now. Instead of hoping the guy I take at 10 can contribute. Because at 16, I hope he can contribute. And also hoping I don't have to overpay for Bogdanovich 2 years from now. Yeah.
It'd be this offseason because you have money that you need to spend. But
hoping, which this offseason I don't necessarily love for the guys that would play that role.
Yeah, me neither. I'm hoping team-friendly deals this offseason, and I'm trying to make sure that we have cap space next offseason when we can really make a splash that can impact
Okay, but
things.
Who's that guy going to be is my point. Like,
no, I'd have to research the player pool.
I would rather get guys that are not children. I'm not trying to run a daycare center here in Detroit anymore. Like, I want players who have been in this league for a hot minute and have had success and contribute to winning basketball teams. So if I have a chance to get one, you best believe I'm going to get one. Because I see a lot of potential with this team starting right here, right now. And adding another 20-year-old to that next year, let's throw that out there, or adding another 19, 20-year-old that's not a top 5 pick to that doesn't move the needle for me. It doesn't. Because when am I going to see that player contribute if I'm ever going to see that player contribute? I'd rather take the guy that can contribute now and then still play the hope game with the other guy that I can get just a few picks later. Frankly, I also believe Jeremy Grant's not getting traded. But that's a story for another day.
Oh, Lord.
I'm just saying, read between the lines with some of the articles you're coming out that have nothing to do with the Pistons or have very little to do with the Pistons. And one today in particular about the center that Tom Gores is opening mentions Jeremy Grant playing a big factor in the decision to open that building. And if the guy's not going to be here, why would they listen to his word as much as they did? That's my point. So think there's some things to read between the lines a little bit with Jeremy Grant that are telling me he may be here. So, and that's purely speculation. Probably not even true. I do think and hope the Pistons will trade.
You're touching on my topic for next week, but
sweet. All right. All right. That is going to call for this week, guys. We went way over this week, but a lot of heated discussion this time. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you to the Detroit Sports Podcast. As always, follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. We will catch you guys next week. Andrew, thank you for putting up with my yelling. It's fun to feel something with the teams again.
It's whatever reason to be passionate about.
Yes, it is. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Enjoy your week and your weekends. We'll catch you next week. Peace out.
Peace.